Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to take you through a sort of mock example of how we do budget planning and cash flow planning for clients, all clients really, who are interested in planning for a goal, a financial goal for the future. But specifically today, for those of you who are interested in becoming a Canadian expat, whether you want to live temporarily abroad, work temporarily abroad, or retire or move permanently abroad. So, what does it take? What kind of services can be offered, and how do we do cash flow planning? So, without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and walk you through what happens behind the scenes and what kind of information that you can get in your hands so that you can make a properly informed decision, maybe take some of the anxiety out that you might be feeling like, do I have enough money? Will I have enough to income? How does it all work? And so on and so forth. Now, this is just the beginning piece. This is one piece of it. Everything that goes into this cash flow planning should still be vetted properly with international tax accountants and ensure that we think of every single thing that could go wrong because this is you put a plan in place, but then things may change. So one of the things I always recommend, and I'll show you when we go through it, is adding buffers into that plan, not just going dollar for dollar and having no cushion in case something were to go wrong. So if I've whetted your appetite, that was my intention. Let me just now figure out here to share my screen. And there it is. All right, so hopefully now you're seeing the right screen and I won't have to record this all over again because I won't know until I'm finished. On this screen, you'll see that we have a husband and a wife, Mark Expat and Mary Expat. Now, we haven't put their dates of birth yet, so let's just arbitrarily pick something, you know, in my time frame. We'll go with 1970. That's 1968. We'll call it February, and hey, Valentine's Day, why not? And for Mary, let's go to 1969 and June 16th, arbitrarily. We're going to keep it nice and simple. No kids, all right? But of course, if there are kids, we could add them in here. Of course, they're probably all on their own and self-sufficient, so we won't have to worry about providing for them. Now, the first thing we would probably do is figure out if it's before leaving Canada, we're going to add the incomes here that are currently coming in, whether there's a salaried income or commissioned income, because unless you're leaving tomorrow, you're still having income coming in, and that income is going to go somewhere to pay off the current requirements, the necessities of life, the mortgages, the rents, the food, the cell phones, the savings. So if you work with a financial professional, with some advance notice of, hey, in 5 years I want to move to Europe, then they can create a plan where we're socking away more money for that eventual move and focusing on that or paying down debts. Now, if you're just coming at the last minute and you're saying, hey, I'm planning to leave in a few months, I just really need to vet my ideas, then you are coming kind of at the last moment, and you should take everything with a grain of salt. But at the same time, what we would do then is probably not add your income, but show as if, on whatever date, January the 1st of whatever the next year is, or in a few months, this is the new life, this is what it's going to cost. But let's say that we're going to have a move in 5 years time or 3 years time, so we're going to add some incomes here. So for Mark, let's say he's making a salary. We're going to keep it really simple, and we're going to call it $95,000, and we're going to call it from the start of the year until retirement, keeping it really simple. And let's add another salary for Mary, and we're going to have her at 110. right? So pretty good incomes, right? Now, next one we would do is we'd add the accounts. Why would we, like, these would be RRSPs, tax-free savings accounts, non-registered accounts. The reason we would do that is because we want to know where income will be coming from. And just really keeping it nice and simple, let's give each of them a TFSA, an RRSP, and then a joint non-registered account. So I'm going to get to work on that, and maybe what I'll do is speed up the video here a little bit so that you don't have to watch me do the same thing over and over again. Here we go. Okay, so as you see, I've added a TFSA and an RRSP for Mark, a TFSA and an RRSP for Mary, and a joint non-registered. Now these are just arbitrary numbers. I put in 95,000 for the TFSA. That's just the limit right now. Obviously, this TFSA could be valued more. I've got him as a conservative investor here. Perhaps Mark said at one point he wanted to keep this safe just in case he wanted to help his kids or buy a car or something like that. We have his RSP a bit more moderate. So there's different categories: conservative, moderate, aggressive, and aggressive. And these would be discussions that we would have had with Mark in advance, as well as with Mary, and the different risk profiles for each one would be adjusted. Now for the joint non-registered, you might have noticed that I put a cost basis. So this is what the money put in originally. This is important to know because if it grew from 175 to 250, if they were to sell the entire amount, it would be the capital gains that would have been the growth between 175 and the 250. All right, so we've got that in here. Next, we're going to look at pensions to see what we can expect from pensions. So there's CPP, old age security for both. Now, if they've been, we don't really know exactly what the CPP will be unless Mark and Mary would actually contact the CRA or go online through servicecanada.ca and find out what their specific CPP and old age security entitlement are. So we would basically put a rule of thumb, or if they knew, they would tell us. We're going to keep it at this for now, and we're saying that at retirement, we haven't set the retirement date yet. That's the amount that would be coming in. And for old age security, if the client has been in Canada for 40 years since the age of 18, then they're going to get the full amount of the old age security. So many of my clients that I work with were actually coming to Canada, so they might not have the full 40 years. Sometimes they're pretty close to it. So sometimes we adjust this down just to make it prorated. So let's say 90%. And you'll see here it automatically adjusts the expected amount. So this software is updated with Government of Canada CRA tax rules and tax brackets and old age security amounts and so on and so forth. So that makes it fairly simple. Now, if one of them had worked for a company that had a pension plan, like defined pension plan, we could add that in here as well and make it more robust. So let's maybe just assume that Mark did work for a pension. We won't say which one it is, and he's found out that his pension will be $2,500 a month at retirement, and we'll leave it at that. All right, so now we've got that in here. Lifestyle assets. Now, again, this is important when we're talking about becoming a non-resident. Most likely you're going to sell the house, so that's going to be a big part of it. So we can use the principal residence, and let's say it's jointly owned, and we value that at 1.5 million. We can put the purchase amount, but it's not really as important since the principal residence won't have any. It's got the capital gains exemption. So let's say they bought it 30 years ago or 25 years ago. So they bought it at 375 and it's grown since then. All right. Any liability. So this is where we would add a mortgage. So if there's still a mortgage, for example, let's say there is a mortgage of 240 and interest rate, I don't know, 5%. We're not going to dilly-dally on that. Payment per month, let's say, is 2,000. And payment is, okay, perfect. Now, here's where the expenses are going to come in. Pre-retirement and retirement. So the software automatically assumes age 65 is the retirement, and we're going to go and change that at a part in the software here. So it would be probably right here. We're going to put specify age, specify the date. So if they're coming and saying that they want to retire in, let's say, a year, I can put the date, and instead of 2033, we can put a couple of years or whatever it is in the future. Let's say 2026, whatever, July 31st. And we can say the same thing here. Retire the same date as Mark. Okay. So we've added that in. Now, until then, we have pre-retirement expenses. And what we would do is we would list them. So necessities, for example, we could put in, we don't have to put the mortgage payment because it's already in there on another part of it. But for example, we can put food. And we can be as detailed or as granular as people want, or we can just put one lump sum if people know that they spend $4,000 a month because everything goes to their credit card. If they want to put itemized things, that's what my preference. I like to itemize things because then we can pick and choose to see what's a necessity and what's not. But for example, for food, we can say, well, if it's about 700 to 1,000, normally it's about 500 a week, let's say. So okay, I want to go here. No, here's the little monthly amount. Let's say $1,000 a month. Actually, not a week. Start of the plan year until retirement, right? So this is in Canada. This is until retirement. Oh, and by the way, until retirement, I want to take us back here. I didn't go to the plan settings to show you that we do have assumptions here where we have built in expected inflation rate. Now this is average annualized inflation historically. So I know that wasn't the current inflation rate in the past few years. But for example, right now, if we use that, that's the standard inflation rate. And there'll be part of the software here where we can add if inflation is higher. We also are having a plan that's going all the way to age 90. And if clients say they have longevity in their family, then we can put it to age 100 or 110. A lot of clients say, I don't think I'm going to live that long. Put it down to age 70. Now, we don't recommend that because we never know. So we like to keep it at age 90. That's the default. And normally that's good for the planning purposes. So let's go back to liabilities. Correct expenses. Another pre-retirement expense could be utilities, and I'll just put a number in there. I'm gonna make it quickly to bunch it all up. Actually, what I might do here is I'm gonna speed up the video again while I add a bunch of necessities here, and then come back to you. So here we go. Okay, so I've added a few things here. There's obviously a lot more. The purpose of this is not to go granular. I will create another video with a very detailed checklist and cash flow tool that you can jog your memory of all the different things that you're spending per month. Another good way to do it is whatever you're using, whether it's your bank account debit card or with your credit card, you can use that to itemize your expenses as well. And in fact, some clients, like I said, what they'll do is they'll just say, you know what, I spend credit card bill every month, and they'll say a certain dollar amount, 3,500, and they know that everything kind of goes through there. So we're not putting that here. Now, these are all pre-retirement expenses. And what we can do is we can say, well, see, this is going until retirement. So at that age that we said in 2026, these will all cease. And assuming that, for example, you will now be in another country, we can massage and model this to be a bit longer. So for example, unless it's specifically on that date that you're in the airplane, we need to work more towards that. So for example, we would model in here in the lifestyle assets, for example, we could go and say, well, we plan to sell it. Let's say we were looking at 2026. July was, I think, the retirement age, so we'd go to 2026, and then we say, well, we plan to sell it in May or June the 30th, to give you that date. And the sale expense, this is where you would put in the fee for the realtor and so on. We could put that in, or we could leave it blank, either as a percentage or a dollar amount. So let's put that, and we would have that money funded to the account, which would go into the software. So, well, the next thing that we would do is we would go to say, what are the post-retirement expenses? So now this is in the new country, and you may not know this. What would you do to figure this out? Well, like I said in previous video, you could go to websites like Numbeo, cost of living. That's one website that many people have told me about. I've used it myself, and you could pick the city that you're looking to move to. Let's pick Seville, Spain. All right, and let's see, cost of living comparison, actually. Looks like you need to put in your email address. I know I've done this before. Let's say Toronto. Let's see if it'll get me through here. Seville, compare. Okay, looks like that was fine. So now here we go. Meals at an inexpensive restaurant in Toronto, $26. That's probably like a McDonald's. So here we got in Seville. Mid-range restaurant with a 3-course meal, $120. Well, here's a McDonald's. McMeal and McDonald's are equivalent. This must be per person. So that's the per person range here, because it's not for two. Domestic beer, cappuccino, then we have milk. We have all these different things here. So if you really want to do into even the bananas of the world and the oranges, you have your estimated prices here in Canadian dollars. Then you've also got transportation. You've got electricity, so mobile phone plans, internet, all this different stuff that you can actually research and figure it out. Sometimes you have the luxury of being able to figure out, and sometimes you say, well, I only have a certain amount of money and I can only spend a certain amount. If you really don't know, just for beginning stages of planning, and it's 3-5 years away, you just want to start planning for it, we can put either a certain amount, estimated expenses, and we can say it's 3,500 per month. And don't forget, this is Canadian. So you always want to make sure that you're going to an exchange rate calculator and convert. So let's say 3,500 Canadian to, in this case, they'll call it euro, would be 2,336 euros. So if you're more in the mind of, well, let's convert that back from euro and say 3,000 euros, that's 4,493 Canadian. So let's put that in here. Canadian. And of course, the currency fluctuates. So now we've got all this in here. This is a very basic kind of plan. It's not even a plan yet. We're just gathering information. We haven't looked at insurance. We haven't looked at other expenses. Potentially, we haven't looked at adding a plane ticket. So if there could be, for example, we could say a retirement expense, the one-time necessity. So it's not like a regular thing. Plane tickets. And let's call it $3,000. Once we put that in there, we can say that it is a one-time expense. All right, and it's going to be, we're just going to leave it at the retirement date, which is that July timeframe in 2026. So that's built in there, right? Now, once that's all in there, and it's as accurate as possible, and we can go back and forth and add stuff, remove stuff as you get more experience in this. Now that that's in there, we can now go to reports. So we have audit reports here, which we can go to cash flow summary. And you can see here that in 2026, we're going to have money coming in from Mary's TFSA account, Mark's TFSA account, his salary because working until June or July, and then the sale of the principal residence and the defined benefit. This is all that's coming in. 1.6 million. Now you're not spending the 1.6 million, the 1.4 goes into an account. And then you can see here the rest of the stuff, the mortgage liabilities, estimated expense, like all this stuff here that's going in, right? So you can see here that this unspecified dollar amount, 1.5 million, it's because we haven't said what we're going to do with that money coming in from the sale of the home, minus the fees. And also what looks like I didn't add any growth to the home because it didn't grow that much, but we can add growth to the home as well. And as we go to the next year, now you can see that we're now living off of starting off with a TFSA and then the defined benefit plan to continue on with the so you know what, here's the thing, we go back and forth. There's also still mortgage liabilities and it looks like it's continuing, and that's because we need to make sure that the mortgage is paid off once the house is sold. So that's another point of going back and forth, making sure that the information is vetted. But basically with this information, I'm not going to go into the deep weeds because that's going to take significant time to just go and clean up everything. The purpose of today's video is to show you how we can give you some reports or pre-planning to remove some anxiety, put it all structured in your head about where the money's going to come from, whether it's going to come. And by the way, right now the software is showing TFSA, but we can adjust it to have it come out of an RRSP first, if that makes more sense, or from leave the RSPs and the TFSAs, don't touch them until much later on. A lot of different scenarios. The point is you got to start somewhere, and starting somewhere means getting the data in so we can start to work with it. All right. I stopped sharing because I'm done. I hope this was very valuable as a sort of behind the scenes insight of what we can do to help our clients to prepare for their future Canadian expat life. This is one little foundational piece of the whole puzzle. There's a lot more to it than that, but this is one of it. And hopefully it's given you some insight into the power of working with a financial planning professional that has access to these types of tools. I'll see you on the other side. And like I like to say now, once in a while, perhaps we'll have a cappuccino on a cobblestone street at some time in the future. I hope we do. Talk to you soon.